Okay, good. Sweet.
Advantage 1, expertise. Trump excluded federal workers from bargaining, doing governance, but partnered all 25 ability to bring voice and agency policies, creating effective administration service being improved by providing workers a formal voice for releasing a rollback their stuff to the government, the big AO, changing the way of bargaining, impacting many unions with a difference over exception to circle and reuse of resource workers of foreign service offices, based and losing collective bargaining agencies can change, conditions of negotiating, having no authorities opt out of the all rules, procedures, kept the best performers, unprotected civil service, unleashes, quote, the biggest portfolio of catastrophic risks ever, Schulman, 22 servants who work demand over president's death, service management, catastrophic risk, most are opaque, demanding reliable management practice, not fair for the job, management, good laws, protection, making possible reform, and issue, service offer, to be tough to hear, shifting also chilling fair places, review that qualification, resume, build up, inclusive advisory, secondary expertise, refined citizens, environmental cleanup, food, and more, and guarantees the cumulative effect of multiple risks and extinction, feral, 25, while versus the contribution to problems, make sure the worst problems getting bigger, beginning dramatic worsening of the economic system, making first makes the government live with the likelihood of a loops where unpredictable, multiple problems, reinforcing each other, the most significant government is working on the admin operators, the risk we facing our financial or security, they're likely to develop the interaction of these factors, small mistakes, cascade, are links about expertise, not policy-making authority, Earl 26 people, perform the research systems are coupled with not learning, missing, cascade, doing security, encouraging, intervention, second order effects, responsibility, they control by fear review, norms of reputation, rights, disaster, born out of short class special good explanation, trade outs, mercy, not decided, goals, remain knowledge, forces, chosen, and biggest, travel, loyalty, right after short societies, and do this become fragile civilization, events, recognized specialization, remains indispensable, weak, administrative capacity, invites terrorism, Snyder, 25 the ranking files, which is administrative, yes, the people, law enforcement, keep each other's agency, fault, political instruction, do not investigate actual threats to terrorism, living, government-related policies, regarding environmental protection, not doing weather, ending inspections, and urban things to make it easier, but not because of temperature, white supremacists, Islamists, and Russians, counter-terror expertise, states of global war, cloak, and goes to 25% dramatically, drastically reduce those replacing indispensable expertise, not being possible, terror, bargaining, impacts, and the break terrorism, hard job, election, military, spiritually, ground, also Russian positions, threats to space, outer tech, leader, broader war, transition, groups, and capability, stricken, the homeland, second order effects, during escalation, wars, conflicts, with already attacking, food or water, involving WDQ, remedies, attempts for terrorism, spoiler, military policy, where you take the barrier, pretty and encryption, become multiple parts of global war, independently bargaining rights for the mass exodus of experienced diplomats, Kelman, 25 reforms restricting the diplomatic foot with the FCA, supported diplomatic trouble, experience bargaining with president of professional rewards, service, care policies, leasing, talent, leave, mention, issues, closing embassies, another proposal to replace experienced officers, so acts, Republicans have exercising oversight, software, institutions to suffering, extinction, death, diplomacy, checks, nuclear war, and operations, also every other issue, commission, 25 war to the Middle East, and very effective leaders, death, Richard wars, radical leaders, and desperation, states, which said, reports borders can be altered, Europe, borders, general, resolving with the citizens, and war, Richard, and service, defeating Ukraine, with terrifying native, leaving the US to the south of Europe, not as ever escalation, be strong, personal, dynamics, China, and diplomacy, produce better status quo, and reduction, intensity, net resolution, how long the form of government, self practical trouble, change, maybe possible to lose committed evidence through rules, work, human rights, relations, for human artificial climate change, pandemics, the arctic space, globalization, nuclear exchange, advantage 2, democracy, unions, check, administrative politicization, sustaining it, point ahead, 21 term, spend a long-term backslide about inviting unions, democracy, Russian, now, some trouble, troublesome backslide, good effects, bureaucracy, cities, democracy, next year, review, future president, use aggressive, Republicans, the best, is it one check for reforms, little knowledge, not political players, field team, turn, retire, believe, turn, believe, make credible commitments, or offer vision, and the credit of a subsidy resolution, like conservative reformers, we can bargain on the ability to recruit talents, unions offer organized resistance against politicization, and democratic bureaucracy restrains personalism, else nuclear war, Gnitsky, 26, Trump's bypassing checks, Trump's on the interaction, process first, nuclear career efficiency, eliminating professional license, in favor of second high taxes with the weak insurability ratio, reality, personal space, poor partners, personal system, one of uncertainty, institutional government, independent bureaucratic machinery, personal agreements, or brittle Alice's way from personal world leaders, raising country, one to demand the next personal spec, Washington, less reliable system will be less democratic, Washington, dependent, boxing, promotion, flexibility, rules, reform, making easier step, major war, personals, why is swearing off them, less than the escalate, the personals, who pricing, economic advice, let me give the China, Russian, US, large nuclear actions, flashpoints, visible, Europe, Britain's update, has had advantageous nations, geopolitical, one is matter, personal, and Middle East, Africa, governments, continuing, energy interests, nuclear leaders, insulting from dissent, pursue risky gambles, autocratic control of the bureaucracy makes miscalculation, inevitable, Joes to 24, leaders who trade off the nature of the best, advisor, nature of the bureaucracy, paralysis, and leaders, miscoming the business, but motive, regret, expertise, institution, power, companies, watch, leaders, cities, aggressive, result, trust, enjoy access to authority, leadership, reform, protection, leader, the info, one chance, like that, complete influence, prevent international crisis, leaders, cannot dissolve the expedition, no deck, option, change cause, miscalculate leaders, initiate, complicated, adversary, bureaucracy, office, one solution, bureaucracy, foster, specialization, leaders, building, miscalculate, influence, low quality, bureaucracy, master, try hard, leading, center, fair quality, the rules of fund, conditions, bureaucracy, miscalculate, most limited to institution, inclusive bodies, motivate, bureaucracy, selecting, service, limited expertise, the keys, incentives, structure, post, fragmented, institutions, institution, cost, bureaucracy, sensitive, information, leader, decision, committees will not leaders, will not permit decision, fermentation, signals, leader, for bureaucracy, silent, bureaucracy, low set, fair punishment, bureaucracy, these live in the fly, the face reality, the best data, demonstrates democracy, solves interstate and civil war, code 25,000, deepening coincide with the aggressive conduct towards giving the instrument for consultant authority to depend on the major issues, all kind of with given freedom, take rest, democracy, population, with the harsh for session and construction, make more visible with the public, receive wars, detrimental, leaders, give for substantial, cause and defensive, defensive, cost of control, portion, election, state holders, and all taxes, all they do, eventual structure for children, risk, capital, conflict, gravity, say zero, hackers, new actors, complete tensions, turns back, less of war, invincibility, of hunt, of even more than inherent rules, of emerging autocracies, which is going to allow break tension, empower persons, liberal session, Pentecostal, 100, fail, country, 1970, over, autocracy, face a higher probability of or this robust alternative not driven by Dutch and those who are proposing the currency economic generate gains as executive, plus the security apparatus, mostly numbers of community structure, Crimea, Ukraine, much who benefit society, zero backsliding, external restrictions, Syria, Gaza, and around the source of the peace, penalty of organization, civil breakdown, triggers nuclear war in every theater, stairs, reformers, who like the last months, the concerns on great rocks, taking the US, can operate the breaches, atmosphere, given the division, regional and Ukraine could escalate, to one more from the conflict around us, or interested weapons remain serious, Korea, and national actions, serving 30 contingencies, only two were low probability peace will become impossible, French must begin at home, but no terms, Abbott states all every objection to democracy, Rubin, 25, at the highest level, people are capable of understanding voter issues, voter access, are unreasonable impossibility, the eligible listed here now, governments must deal with the mechanisms, the agencies, because that's the experience issues when people want to feel knowledge and complex areas, regulate these impossible activities, those who have not control by some forces or interest control, those leave the discretionary agents of the apparatus is a necessary component of any government. Now, plan, the United States, federal government should substantially strengthen collective bargaining rights for federal workers in the United States. Finally, solvency, the F strikes down Trump's EOs on the basis that he violated the will of Congress. Paris, 25 Trump acting Congress, conflicts, succession, crimes, control of settled the EOs are right off the corporal claims reacted by the Adelaide protection and training and policymaker first appointees Congress here from the technology plotted board of Trump application be contrary to attending case law statute said not grant the power to limit protection state jobs to be shut down. Unions are one sufficient personnel. Is policy only collective bargaining unlocks expert bureaucracy Ben 2016 front. But Trump used authority on the ability to unionize Trump said EOs circle millions even the CBS and president dimension expertise rather terms of limitation of procedures statutes law Congress ground procedures shall and expertise personnel external muslim policy regress with policy carry out systems tax social health policy legislative design over express expert tech for comments related to the environment banking immigration healthcare for the issue standards guide recommendation commercial norms agency culture members of Congress or general with like to the civil service Congress may draft a different statute and system workers governed by different governments protection possibility as under track expert performance meta analysis votes AF Suzuki 25 to initiate unprecedented reforms without process not to replace records of official law with the general reforms executed by autonomous law officials establishments like not just 1,000 district operation experience cannot be represented district where expertise without political judgment cultures overreach the limit knowledge focus on short-term gains and reforms reflect mobilization robust research from diverse context and control it is on performance review with members find compelling members debate system deals better outcomes mobilization compromise expertise on autonomous gains and valid policy will every forthcoming neg author is a partisan hack hello 25 employees of employment policy and issue regulation sure operation is essential that the workforce be staffed with the people as second America protected from the abuse of virtues American promotion competence system is about serving solids and not over to America's level of higher foundation power structures Trump advocates for reforms and work to pass legislation with the authority granted the present legislation opposite judicial in the effort to elevate loyalty to the Johnson government fills the authoritarian civil service effectiveness threatening to continue expertise rather than political motives oriented to American effect of replace the effectiveness of government at risk unions fund litigation protect employees from firing lobby to check mission creek hammer 24 unions accumulate resources allowing service amount defenses lobby unions have chief power winners it's uncertainty that incentivizes agencies to cooperate with the representative Congress super shaping national positions with the protection news lobby excellent regulation group employees lobby and regulatory issues and lobby enforcement agency leadership funding has potential influence the cumulative effect of collective bargaining is greater than the sum of its parts also the FLRA is effective and 24 day rule exemption of one many rights employees simultaneous state change institutional practice labor rules the president's distribution including under House of Presidential majority under 86 adjudications pending 40 years when we are hired before the MSP agency when some president at the time litigation is costly and there's some labor world shaping policy council responsibility concerns and increase accessibility through Trump so wins there's no bias influence over management rights is not key Schiller and back with 25 works we policy data duties with the goal that teacher carried out different policy in school without teacher action collective government policy federal jobs are not different that's two necessary bargaining diffuses disputes improves morale couple 24 benefits expect advocacy for results bargaining for the voice access and the most present pro Germany is being considered management and give the abstract which resulting in the interest of government bargaining for the purpose of the increase in the likelihood of these leaders giving voice to the power and effects and has effects on morale present collective identity strengthens governance Bruno Grant 16 employees with unions motivation to go there the most important incentive for workers identity collective identity receive employees only way to earn weakening the institution workers and prison careers in the public sector in spite of lower wages the process of bargaining is key Davis 12 unions are integral in increasing autonomy but unions also perception of working needs to weaken motivation to use associated with willing so the lack of responsibility to advance the collective good emotional thoughts of PSM the bargaining press benefits the employee because they participate in procreation so is certainty EPI 25 term pursuit evidence slash or forcibly determined DCBI that have been challenged jobs action that would uncertainty workers who are looking to be seeing loss of the jobs employees seeking other jobs due to uncertainty rehiring cannot solve morale guard 25 workers who are fired between the job for full employees raising several very sporadic main same as the mood is dead raising members of the fourth backtrack firing workers to travel the economic faith employees are skeptical weight same as well let's take out they're going to be bargaining chips they don't feel safe they're working at these subject are acting on the circle of plan we cannot do the like thinking need of alternative evidence where employees can be asked at any moment they've lost a key protection Trump excluded agencies for bargaining the zone and de-escalate conflicts more employees are someone when you use something needs to not escalate situation can be resolved protections against politicization are key shoemaker 25 the terms got a way to go majority of employees are sick many who remain working their heads on their stake making jobs more specialists for the markets limited Trump's employees have been doing for all Trump's routes who holding minority back 30% of I'm not sure how many people were going to retire and new workers who resent the damage and identify the bunch of workers who resisted those in the cross between protection and shield of service no jurisdiction it's just evidence for an interpretation not an interpretation itself counter-interp only are apt and exists in the 1AC which means that it applies to every T violation that they could hypothetically accept I'm good.
Start prep for 1 second. 9:55.
Oh, are you good for us?
Yeah, if you are.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, cool. The plan strengthens CBR for federal workers in the U.S. Who does that?
The United States federal government.
United States federal government.
Yes.
Anything more specific?
Normal means could be the courts.
Normal means could be the the courts. Okay, got it.
But kind plans that use other agents don't
Could be
compete.
the courts.
And
got
we
it.
can say
Okay,
no
I
like
want
in
to
the
talk
sense of
about
the
union
courts.
sufficient. So the Bednar card says at the very beginning that the Federal Labor Management Relations Statute reflects Congress's belief that unions provide benefits. I guess what evidence have you read that empirically they've been successful at restraining leaders like Trump?
Yeah, we've read lots of evidence. The card right after that, the Suzuki evidence, indicates that there's merit-based systems under authoritarian administrations yield, quote, better outcomes. The card,
Okay,
the
I want to
handler
talk a
evidence
little
is
bit
specific
there.
to
No,
you.
I have a
Yeah.
follow-up question about that. I want
Sure.
to talk a little bit about the relationship between merit-based systems and CBR because I don't believe those things are synonymous. So I guess what card establishes that collective bargaining rights are necessary for the government to be merit-based?
All of the cards that we have read that describe merit-based systems are advocates for collective bargaining rights.
Well,
So-
yes, I understand that merit being good is a reason one could conclude you should have bargaining rights, but what card says the only way to conduct a merit-based approach is through bargaining?
do you want to answer that? Like, I think the premise is sufficient.
Like, do you have any
Yeah.
reason as per the 1EC why you have to bargain to be merit-based?
So our merit-based
the
we know
necessary component, which is subpoint 2 on solvency. Let's go through
it's
these.
necessary
The
but not
Kepler-
sufficient. The Kepler evidence describes that there are benefits intrinsic to the process of bargaining. Like when
What
you
are those
talk,
benefits?
it's good for autonomy. It's key to build trust in the bargaining process because once you talk
Well,
to your
okay, trust in the bargaining process is circular because that only affects.
no, I mean sorry.
Works.
Trust. The bargaining process builds trust between employee and employer, which is good.
Okay,
important
what
for-
impact do you think trust between employee and employer connects to?
The entire expertise
Why?
advantage. The entire point is that experts need to be completely unencumbered and autonomous as per both our Earl and Farrell evidence.
Okay, the Snyder card is like people run national security like a TV show, and for some reason that means that terrorists will attack us. How does improving relationships
two-
between employees and employers make this not a
two
TV show?
internal links. Well, first, the impacts that I listed to that specific deficit with the two other cards, not Snyder, but two internal links that are relevant for Snyder. The first is the top of the card that says that administrative chaos is what triggers the perception of dysfunction within the government.
Okay,
The
the
second
Trump
is that
administration has been crazier than I could possibly express. Like, what card says simply reversing one decision and restoring CBR is sufficient to solve all administrative chaos?
well, I don't think that's the sufficient burden. The Suzuki evidence indicates, though, that it's key to reverse the perception of a politicized civil service, which is the thing that terrorists perceive, and that's why they would do so.
Wait, okay, terrorists attack the U.S. because they think that
Yeah, because they think the government
politicized?
doesn't work. Like, they think it sucks at governing, so they think that they can do whatever they want.
For sure. Democracy internally is just unions as an internal constraint, yes.
not a constraint on Trump, but they're more democratic than installing a bunch of hacks.
Okay, that makes sense.
Print it out. Order is Adolf, solvency, expertise, democracy.
No, I need a second. Okay. Got it.
I'm not. Good now.
First off, you see my workers, CEOs, employee rights, negotiate the employers, ACT, CR, first employee rights bargaining with the employer, they don't meet back in 19 employers, the federal government's employees and assist that affects commerce for net for limits and grind the affluence. Every corporation knows that they gave the tiny public sector ask for from the AFA joint jurisdiction is stupid. And that's super arbitrary means every AFA next office strengthen means increase the ability for CBR to overcome opposing interest power, into the strength of right of ability to overcome opposing interest, strengthen the independence of designing institutes for production violation. The plan is not voting issue for limits and ground the unique. The limit of the topics for the net bruiser for the Bush experience and clash. Failure to decide agent is the voting issue, make things even possible. Using a refund after the one and see next office CBR pay the federal United States federal judiciary should adopt fire protection federal workers lead by establishing just cost center any schedule F, schedule policy career and reductions in force permit, working from home, establishing what confidentiality protection for whistleblowers enforced by the inspector generals, publicly announced whistleblowers will be exempt from investigation, prosecution, stuff, anything reasonable penalty rewards for whistleblowers, including through tax breaks, cover all expenses incurred by whistleblowers, including attorney fees, restore non burning represents effective of January 1st, 2025, permanently waive all their expiration, establish new workers councils for dispute resolution and conflict mediation permit, automation of the federal workforce. That's all the case without restoring the union form locally. Number 19. Confidentiality of first reports come forward. Report to ID offices, IG protect confidentiality in so far. Report recommendations on meeting in store confidentiality. Based on reports to come to the IRS. If defense unjust firing server, when you just cause the APT's delays on the process of government after lawyers must be given notice not to be written for investigation. Next off is the lobbying against the United States government. Whether units from lobbying, the United States government should enact privacy legislation or the regulation of AI or artificial intelligence. The no new privacy or AI rights are coming now. Both from unions be successfully lobbying for them now. Plus, I'll need more. Organized workers have been power out to keep the CBAs, the kind of pull the power which I use as a check up like that, the tech, the lawmakers, the regulators, the struggles of KZ, the one comments of federal data privacy regulations, the federal data privacy law rights, non-gen AI accountability, like the unionized workers or key unions, lobbying Congress, that directly all the time the unions could drive policy at the national level. That dismisses AI innovation notice. 24. Policy changes could trample small businesses, drive innovation, new companies from emerging, the effective regulations, law generation, innovation, data privacy policy, reports and policy pass regulate small businesses play an important role in the tech ecosystem for under like tech policy, without unintended consequences. US AI lead prevents decisive Chinese military dominance, extinction, national 24. Super intelligent to be the most powerful weapon, the CCPS, the path of the British blocking the terror rates only 3% healthy, believe have the margin of error for not being engaged, while the American news, the path as to a non-proliferation ability could mean as early decisive advantages against a rock and they go forward and finish, would be decisive enough to appear take out adversaries Germany, same place about China, however, when the CCP wakes up, we would expect the CCP to compete the media, assume that we will face a full throated the Chinese AGI efforts to eliminate the dictators rule and locking their power will have to lead to decisive for safety and business, they'll do violence to silently with the evaluate this expert by the AGIs that will enable unions of mass death, the gives the super against safety right by nobody actually report alignment 2 years 2 months we can make the difference if we really in charge of heads or would have brought up totals of construction AGIs and existential challenge. Next up is the executive counterpart, the executive branch of the United States government should rescind the executive order that strips the federal worker collective bargaining rights, including executive order 1420, the 1421, the 51, executive order 141, the 48, and executive order 14171 that solves 1.25. Presidents have the power to revoke an executive order issued during their term, but also orders by the past president. Next off is the veto override. It's that the United States government should pass appropriations, executive branch should not strike Iran and should withdraw its military assets. Congress should pass the marijuana bill. Trump should veto, and Congress should override it. Trump vetoes a plan to that means Congress overrides it. Here's 26. House passed a P8 and then W8 voting to the reverse order that stripping running rights 231 to 195 vote. Then Trump's orders the reward phase of a long running campaign by Al Roy's weekend. Union Senate the authorities 40 co-sponsors over the past there and has to Trump's last veto. It's certain but that veto would the allegiance of the union busting executive Trump's proceeds override as the final straw of the GOP sport. If you look the weeks with 25 are questionable federal welcome to continue to coach the flickers of hope that they might reassert authority. Trump's party remains overwhelmingly loyal. Congress was represents what they could be confident of as the Congress is not going to check control of the fear. As same Congress in recent days small factors appear to help Trump's favor Congress fragile of Republicans who stop Trump, the Republicans are going to look and say the only way to ensure survival is challenges. The guy that motivates him to attack Iran. You see about the Middle East, mostly 116. Will Trump attack Iran? Then Trump pull back from the brink. Trump going to still order attack them. Then Trump is going to mention this in the Middle East so that he doesn't. If Peter Trump has been involved by Venezuela, Trump doesn't have an overarching policy or goal. He's going to mention vengeance and self-awareness with the U.S. Trump plans to attack Iran for now, but Trump is keeping the world's attention focused on given that causes World War III. Peterson 26 attacks on Twitter decision to produce nuclear weapons. The worldwide pursuit nuclear deterrence. The bombing results in nuclear conflict threat. Precipitous U.S. nuclear developments. Lead to World War III that humanity might not survive and another bombing rate of the trade of Russia and Iran or allies as an India. In China's wars could last many years. That those of us seeking the further scope was actually paid for wise policy making. Next off is the CAPK, the collective bargaining rationalizes the political capitalist relations and forces working class revolution right. Then 21, former representative capitalists awaiting forceful capitalism rationalizing the profit system, analyzing the capitalist pricing force, the money labor the needs of capital, the performance impulses to make capitalism for central capitalism even with the tangible improvements for workers. Capitalism produces a series of unsustainable crises extinction. 25, the capitalist system, agreed poverty and produce ordering world to a hellish place of turning authoritarianism, the bourgeoisie markets are improving wages, fascism, trade by Putin and financial capital, the capitalism described against the state exploitation of quality torsion nature applies to the aid of abyss, and the capitalism global destruction and wars in Syria, Iraq, Iran, Pacific, Ukraine, reveals to other reality that the third world extinction mistakes really before us. Thus the alternative is the social political economy that rejects private corporations, profit motive, and capitalist labor relations. Against in 2025, only living with profit motives is going to possible to stop destruction. That means what's going to eliminate the problem. The motive is only when society breaks the profit motive and moves to planning, solvency. One normal means the plan is Congress. It's most likely in 325 ability to restore CPR for federal employees clear the House when 185. The United Caucus is already Republicans voted in. We were after the church process. Determining normal means according to what is most likely is good. That's most predictable. Encourage just research and punishes plain vagueness. 2 CPRs are relevant. Policy in fact. Don't just feel that it's outside promises that agencies are not hiring back workers. The workers will give as the government can see 1 in 8 civilian workers. And then gone by the end of the year. The government simply shed 8% annually. The agencies have started bringing people back in 8 recent weeks. Employees are not being offered jobs back. Community that seduce only 25%. APE 24 according to the BLS federal agency 25. 1% out of every 2 new employees is joining. For the aspect at 0, Fed workers can negotiate for pay benefits, hiring or firing is just set by statute FGE. 25, 30, cannot negotiate for pay benefits or hiring for decisions. 5, they're legally barred from striking. You can see 19, the law that specifies the government employees strike consider the right to strike is felony. OPM can declare an individual suitable for forever 6. It's too late. Cornfield 25. Historical for Congress through the feds. Name 4,000 accepted by opportunity. 105,000 people little time and 18% surge in shutdown for all some agencies processing. 35,000 retirement. 7 RIF swamp the plan. Almost 25 for junction that will be able to require mass writing, although they didn't require to give the feds their job back. 8 regulation and funding conflicts. Workers are often posing into 25. The Trump understand that for the Constitution. Congress called course that workers and allies Trump / expenditures spending the advocacy. Must get accolades of the rampage agencies firing and slashing spending code decisions to reach the wheels over those of it's on cherry comments. 9 courts outweigh or courts outweigh Hilo and Dicho. 25 courts had to provide consequences for admin presidency developing agency autonomy, the right aligned retraction. There's just however the additional branch over the other rulings like weaken agency power corner. Post race economy lawsuits. Now states function of the Fed. 10 unions will be put Trump. 25 unions are not about Trump, although the others mentioned avoid using the word Trump to give leeway to the regulator. Expertise. 1, no admin seat impacted. Beak 22, 1 overrunning bonus made affiliates was in her. The admin seat by the virtual coming inside of the group. They don't know against ensure that wasn't viewpoints. It's just some operating procedure was made no stuff, but risk came up with the bizarre rules and the bad ideas received. No pushback from using going to be reality or so that rules pleading against special interest groups displayed by or comments are considerable drawbacks. Depending on the bureaucratic machinery, 2, no polycrisis impact measure. 23 publics believe that comments role is vulnerable to zombie that polycrisis ironclad echoes with neo-malthusianism that can be reduced to climate change, assuming the powerful negative feedback effects that may not exist. All the shocks in the past years capture the global situation almost exactly as global polycrisis just historically rhyming with itself. Polycrisis, no more underestimating how much of the global system full mechanism that push back against the supply chain and relation tries to have it reverse themselves. The society emerging that indicators social development survive the deeper flaws of the perception that water prices will lead to negative feedback effects as deception, seem to return and skewed. 3, no terrorism internal link. There evidence of a weak perception, either that the attack or 4 must Trump make it another slide on 25. The moving up our economy does find population Trump is right attention. The no worst for 5 terrorism is terminally unique and counterintuitional. Solves another 24. The extent of the from the terrorists increase their community plots, but authorities that manage them that blows fields to materialize no outrage over Israel, but that any such produce any terrorist activities fight no alarm even in an increase that occur would be manageable without extraordinary action. 6, diplomacy does not solve war. 24 crashes communities failure to bring 6 thousands of licenses. 24 the NSC failed able to reach consensus on protection of civil agency. Cannot hold of this mandated social mission on invasion of Ukraine followed a series of failed diplomatic efforts with Putin doesn't know how to change the Putin diplomacy no capital involved the Russian funded operation is shared post-Cold War security architecture diplomacy is failed after 2 years of war so unable to look after a credible path to cessation of hostilities. 7 tons of all causes to diplomacy that's common. 25 this only unions to departments against some restrictions through salary fees. The closing doesn't post some of U.S. aid and we have been AWOL democracy. 1, unions cannot check Trump, the best line in Mohia, and the checking politicization that is a top influence over nukes or withdrawal from international organizations. 2, no democracy effectively. 24, the democracy is important to solve issues. Democracy is the truly nationalism issues. Our international they cannot be faced by democracy, democracy is to receive fundamental nation makes it's even fundamental short terms of impulsive decision making as well as influence democracy. 1, runs to good luck, rationality and failure. 3, no DBT, bigger. 25, if DBT is correct, then that should be still going to be a difference between regime types, they should be until now large and survey. In the case of finding DBT, I have no significance of the choice to attack. That choice to attack and no and democracies are stable and then 24 massive global democratic outline nuclear support medical evidence expert and measures documents only we can find objective indicating maximal evidence of backsliding and measurement advice detected indicators of accuracy and replicability evidence is not sufficiently strong or it's double abroad in Hungary, China, Russia which also have regarding the scalp but no outright nukes impact in ways of colon. 22 problems lead to nuclear danger. There are drawbacks to this talk should be exaggerated but both these folks and yes conventional military mode. Trump did not see any handling nuclear danger and the press audiences and actors understand it.
You good?
Yeah, Roger Wallen was marked that actors understand it.
Okay. Stats.
Conditional.
Kick flex?
On the CBR pick, the planks are like noted in brackets.
Sure.
Like
Kick
if you
flex
look
on
at
anything? No?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you amend counterplans?
Amend counterplans in response to a new 2AC offense. Yes.
How do you determine if something is offense?
If it's like an add-on, like if it is a new impact.
That's circular.
that the
How do you
app-
determine if it's an add-on?
Well, if it is, so if you let me finish, if it's an impact that the app solves that is a new impact presented.
So if we say we solve a new
Even
impact,
an add-on
it's
is like
counterplans.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
awesome. The CAPCA, you fiat central planning. Does Trump get to plan the economy?
No, but not be Trump. It'd be worker led.
Yeah.
Wait, sorry, how? Who runs the government?
Well, the alternative was feature a lot of these agencies would replace them with workers essentially who are the ones operating it.
Sorry,
you're
you're talking about the alternative in which you've highlighted 14 words and you've said
it's more than 14.
only eliminating the profit motive is it possible to stop destruction. That is socialism, eliminating the profit motive. It is only when society breaks with profit motive and moves to planning. That is the whole alt text. You think that gets rid of all the lets the workers run all the agencies?
Well, what the alternative part does explain is saying that we need to eliminate the profit motive present in forms of
What
governance.
part of plan, why is plan mutually exclusive with eliminate profit motive?
Well, prominently the plan is mutually exclusive because of framework arguments we've made. We think, yes, you are right, the alternative is not a counter plan that has a disadvantage.
Oh, so it's not functionally competitive, it's just framework.
No,
Awesome.
we can't.
Sick. Okay, net benefit to executive counter plan?
The override DA.
Okay, why does the neg get to pick what abnormal means is, question mark?
Well, we gave you the chance to answer and you did not. We'll make a slew of arguments for why we think it's good to debate what normal means.
Also,
Sorry, but like
neg's
why in the
okay,
one
it's
C you
what
said something
research
about
has.
predictability? Why is it predictable?
Well, it's based on research,
Yeah.
right? You get to write the plain text. You chose not to specify which agent you are. And so a question of who the USFG
Yeah, sure,
is
sounds
that
good.
does it is a question of normal means.
The bargaining pick, one of these just restores all CBAs. How does that compete with the app?
Yeah, the act restores the right to collectively bargain. It does not restore.
But they're just collectively bargaining over the CBA, right?
Think of it this way, old contracts go back into place, but they
Wait.
don't have the right to negotiate future contracts.
Okay, but if the contracts are in place and they're permanent as per this counterplan, which says that they can never be repealed, how is that in any way functionally different than the plan
Because
for
the
the
act,
app?
the act allows them to bargain over new contracts. So, for instance, take
Wait,
the
wait,
let me explain this. This is important. Take, for instance, the scientific integrity provision in the EPA. It applied to certain series of programs that were present during the Biden administration. It did not, for instance, apply in a broader manner, things that allowed for more types of.
Wait, I don't,
agreements,
can you
things that
explain how this
have-
avoids the link to the DA if it's functionally the same thing as
Because
the
it does not allow them to bargain for new agreements. That is what leads to lobbying
It also
power,
doesn't
et
restore
cetera.
the union
The
form, which
expansion.
is what's key to lobbying.
It does restore
Like
the union form,
a
because there's a
collective
CBA.
bargaining agreement is a contract,
Okay,
a contract can't lobby.
No Fed workers, VACA card, says the definitions in OSHA are circular. Quote, unhelpfully, employee is defined as an employee. Why are circular and unhelpful definitions good?
Well, first of all, it's specifically talking about the NLRA and RISA. It says
NLRA, wait, sorry, no, it says, it's citing the OSHA.
like the NLRA and RISA.
Sure, you need credit. Alright, 10. What? All the kids are kidding.
What was the first card you read on democracy?
I read all of them.
Oh, I think they use analytics.
Oh, the first was just an analytic. It was like,
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes. 8:32.
Okay, that was my turn.
Yeah, you left. How's it going? How's your tournament notes going?
It's been fun. It's been good. How are you all?
It's good. We've had a lot of candidates today, so this is.
Okay, we had several yesterday.
Yeah, we had a few yesterday too. This morning's been very.
I always feel like this tournament in week is when we
Yeah.
have a ton of candidates.
We had, what was it, Gonzaga? We had like 5 in a row, I think.
We
Oh,
got
okay.
our-
I remember that because I remember looking at your wiki and being like,
Our
oh.
whole prelims of Gonzaga was candidates, which was, it was fine. It was reasonable enough, but.
Yeah.
And then all of Georgetown has big policy grades in every, LS, but other than that, all policy.
Yeah. Our tournaments are very binary. They're like
Very
all policy or okay.
That's funny.
I feel like ours are pretty always.
We always have this all in mix. I like them. They're pretty fun and pretty, by the way.
Thank you.
That's sick. Did you all get those?
Yeah.
We did all get those.
That's
Who
awesome.
signed it?
Who decided?
I don't know. I didn't even write mine out. I still have to get mine.
You have to get yours.
We need to get you merch.
We don't have merch. We have that.
I guess.
He's wearing that, yeah, so he's
No,
wearing
we got services.
You don't
That
have
was-
Forza.
yeah,
What
you
is it?
We ordered those before you.
You know I
ordered.
want the the quarters in.
We'll get you a quarter.
Wait, shoot, I can't say I want a quarter such a level.
If someone gives me the money, I'll go search. I'm gonna do the hockey jerseys.
Oh, the hockey jerseys wasn't good. We're just so expensive.
I already sent the doc. Is everyone good for an order right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Expertise advantage. Diplomacy advantage, or democracy advantage. Solvency advantage. T, strengthen collective bargaining. T, no federal workers. The CAPK. The executive counterplan. The advantage counterplan. The veto DA. AI regulations DA.
Yeah, I'm good.
Georgetown, Kevin.
Expertise on waste, administration, bolsters society, resilience, checking, cascading risk from food security, the environment, economy, and public health. The Shulman, Farrell, and Earl, yes, impact there are peak evidences from about states during COVID, now about the federal government. We solved for the groupthink through the unions, which provide more input, and also their evidence is from the Mackinac Center, which is a hack. Yes, public crisis evidence dresser is from 2023, and getting rid of the administrative state gets rid of poly solutions. Yes, and terror and total linking causes nuclear war. It's marked retaliation, ensuring conflict between good parts. That's in Clark. It's a linear, which means it should not have been triggered already. Musk and Trump do not make it inevitable. Our evidence letter says it's specifically about administrative strength, which solvency proves that the plan is key to. Yes, and the terror, the impact of Mueller evidence is from 2021. Is 5 years too old and doesn't assume emerging tech that makes it much more easy. Diplomacy solves extinction. It's often tensions that are boiling over now in hotspots in Ukraine and Taiwan and fosters cooperation on pandemics and the environment and space. That's Kimmage. It does solve for war. It tamps down external conflicts that are likely to boil over now. Kimmage is much more recent. It says that all of those things are sufficient to solve. Kelman Rika is wrong. It says that bargaining is key, and all of our solvency evidence says that all those things are downstream of unions and that they solve it. Democracy advantage. Drop miscalc impact, they only had DBT defense. Autocracy caused an undermined incentive for accurate misinfo, wrecking informed decision making. That's the Yoast evidence. Unions can't check Trump. They're better than partisan hacks, which cause more groupthink, which their evidence says is bad. No influence over nukes is irrelevant because it just needs to restrain personalism and provide more accurate info and a better epistemic ecosystem. Yes, democracy impact, we didn't read it. Public goods impact, but the admin state solves on the other advantage. Backer is Africa. Backer 25 Democratic P6. Yes, this is empirical fact, not inevitable abroad, because our evidence is specific to the U.S. and they dropped the Civil War. In fact, that it caused extinction. It encourages opportunism abroad by making the U.S. look weak. Solvency. We get to pick normal means of the their evidence only says it passed the House, not that it passed the Senate. If they are right, it is most likely in the status quo that it will pass the Senate, and then Trump will veto it inevitably, which gets rid of the D's uniqueness. But our 1EC evidence says that the plan strikes down an EO and clarifies that it's the court, only the court can do that. It's a solvency advocate for courts doing the no offense. Solvency advocates and explanation means that we don't get a spike out of DAs because 1EC explains the normal means it's key to F ground, or else they can just pick us and link us into DAs, which is the bad for the fairness. Bargaining is not a relevant file, it's only about rehiring, but unions are key to provide workers confidence to speak up. 25% is a lot of workers. Unions have outsized influence due to litigation that's handled. What federal workers can negotiate over is an interesting FYI. Our evidence says that is sufficient, and the threat of litigation allows a latitude outside of that narrow list. None of these things are key to the app. It's not too late. Schumacher says that the quit rate is holding at like 85%, but bargaining rights are key to make them speak up. Regulation does not make workers irrelevant. They resist it through handler liberal rights and thought because it's within their statutory mandate to do stuff that they need to do. And unions are not pro-Trump. Kagan says the most common response was disagreeing with Trump. T. One, we meet Trump didn't cancel CBs for every federal worker. Other agencies have all pre-existing rights. All rights are pre-existing. Read for the right exists independently of whether protected under the first. 2, capital donation can provide rights to new groups. Strengthen CB can go on. In November 13, strengthen bargaining. That didn't definition of the creation of a framework. So does rights. Nazu 14, nothing to expansion is stronger versus strengthening that right. Prefer a Afghan. They include core controversies about federal. The workers need workers, contractors, etc. Be predictability, allowing someone to vote when they couldn't before strengthens that right. Plain meaning is key to prep no offense states process employment law and limited literature service functional limits. Other T. We need plan in a vacuum because we need plan in a vacuum. T. Counter-interpretation apps can provide rights to federal workers or private workers prefer A after their interpretation excludes half the topic in the most salient current labor issue B, predictability. Their interpretation contributes plain meaning justified above crossplay functional limits, legal Ds, and case next, solve ground CBR includes the app sister, and 25 collective bargaining rights for federal employees right to organize from a unions come from MRS Hayes. This says the universal definition is app inserted in yellow, worker and employer are different Petrick. Next, employer and artist is not relevant to define worker's expensive. Government is obviously an employer in Toronto, and 24 FLSA offers recognition of employment between the government and between the federal workers satisfy definition of employee. Vodka sucks, that was cross-X inserted in yellow. A-spec, the one counter apps have to be topical, further specification is regressive since they'll shift goalposts, their interpretation justifies agent counterplans which are unfair still the app normal, no offense normally use cross-X checks. Okay. 1. Framework way consequences of the plan against competitive all prior questions destroy fairness in clash. 2. Permutation do both either shields or the can't overcome the status quo justified by perf con hypocrisy forces to see double turns and proves they care more about fairness, so fairness outweighs weakness of reps and they should lose. We get infinite new answers to every element of this K since they didn't highlight anything or have warrants. 3. The app is A. Anti-capitalist units provide collective identity oriented towards social good instead of profit. That's B. That's Bruno. B. Self-sustainability. Each impact is capped by the admin state. That is Schulman and Farrell. The 5. The I all doesn't solve private actors or internationally if they fiat those it's a voting issue for justifying world peace. 6. It fails without unions. Madigan. And 18. The representation allows the government consolidated bargaining to single endeavor reconcile conflicts and representation to prove effective and avoiding strikes the references in place of resolving disputes over conditions that are released such a great number of grievances will overburden the arbitration markets and tend to produce the fewer disputes on moral and productivity. Transition causes war, upheavals create destabilizing power vacuums, and will be fought by every politician, billionaire, and Republican. That is code. And we solve war impact through democracy. Exact counterpart. 1. Permutation do both, it shields through inclusion. 2. Permutation do the counterplan, no reason why the app has to be the courts. Counterplans can be through text and function. Anything else green that's process and trash and gets rid of germane education. Executive action is uncertain press. 25. The executive remains vulnerable to a reversal or rule-based swamps to the above. That's key. Uncertainty causes workers to jump ship. That's EPI. Advantage counterplan. 1. Permutation do both, and 2. Permutation do the plan at every combo flanks, including across flows, because distinctions between flows are arbitrary. Shields that have benefit condos a voting issue. Kicking parts of theory induces argument of accountability, deepening research and solving time and strategy. Skew 2. Links that benefit. This counterplan is a word pick out of collective bargain. It fiats every possible protection, so if workers have practically unlimited and autonomy and resources, then they can obviously lobby. 3. Only the union form solves a autonomy bargaining, provides a voice and boosting morale. That's Kepler and Davis. B. Disputes unions, mediate controversies, and prevent disagreements from escalating. That's Kepler and Gardner. C. Collective identity. Workers perceive unions as motivation to serve the public. That's Bruno and Davis. Unions are uniquely key to employee empowerment. Chanel and Gerard. 20. Labor relations and unionization linked to employment empowerment. Units make sure that power bureaucrats are desirable to fill public aids. Think whistleblowing engagement programs. Listen to voice whether this is hard. Discretion, leadership, unionization. You can give powerful police unions. Block legislation that impacted workers' membership has been found increasing peace and identity building. And the aspects increase democracy. Rehiring the status quo and fails. Workers are afraid that they'll get retaliated against and won't speak up. That's Gardner and Schumacher. Perm do the counterplan. There's a plank that just brings back CBAs, which just straightforwardly does the plan. Group hiring protections, whistleblowing and telework. Employment law fails. A. Stats. Individual employees lose in arbitration. Union expertise and resources ensures they win. That's handler. B. Certainty concerned. The court means that there's no reassurance the counterplan can stick. Courts are key. Cross-apply certainty key from other counterplan. Worker councils get flooded with requests hang. Actually, that was Madigan on the campaign cross-apply. Here, whistleblowing protections fail. Absent unions because they don't have the confidence to speak up. Veto D. Perm do both. Perm do the counterplan. ICE fights thump because there's a lot of unpopularity in the status quo. Trump will perceive all of those people or all of the Congress from distraying from his power in the status quo. If they are right that the MAGA coalition is fracturing, then a veto will be inevitable in the status quo since they'll pass other legislation. There's no link whatsoever. The app is the courts and does not require us to go through Congress, so it does not approve a veto. Trump is a rogue idiot. A veto is not key. All of our democracy impacts and personalism proves that he can lash out inevitably, which turns their impact. Their Vazi app says that allies check and restrain him and convince him not to first strike Iran, or it says it's inevitable because it says Trump can still first strike in the status quo. Middle East war will never go nuclear. Fatullah Najad at 25. The 12-day war remain contained in Moscow, Beijing, stand outside countries, that survival will limit, and how that goes this by century we have a war limited to Israel and Iran. Has been weakening. Pressures and forces that face abandoned the world's practice escalation by proxy was not in the cards. Pundits long warn a war would kick off World War III. Moscow and Beijing entered in order they provide many meaningful support. Neither will benefit from more the relations with Washington are key. Their ties are opportunistic. If their passivity, Iran is being disillusioned with the U.S. Tehran did not close this alienating Gulf states needed. Oh, sure. Plan solves via war powers. 25. The authority to know that independent power of removal and authority set by foreign policy the central element of the presidency, growth of the executive president, now powers management, authority through removal and command was the secondary constitutional authorities. In case they said substance we be in, since found workers just work throughout the United States, workers definitions on the other page in key background, since substance gets slaughtered by pigs, Venezuela, war power resolution thumps in the status quo. Lobbying. Perm do both. Perm do the counterplan. We get infinite answers to these counterplans because they didn't explain what they do, so it would be new in the block. Federal unions support AI. New House 25. AI agents enhance productivity. Agents act as assistants to humans. Serve alongside digital labor. They will be led workers to welcome AI. Augment all employees advice and union. Does not look like opposition key. Does not expect a trouble implement and attack no way. Improve government as agencies / the workforce. You can take workers to move them to skilled tasks. 2. Unions bargain over the missions of their agency, not random extra regulation, which was actually cards that they read on solvency for us. 3. Lack of regs creates uncertainty and risks. Tongia. And 24. Critics says if you're stringent regs, that's definitely industry. Lack of regs creates more uncertainty. the Congress, and the companies also want protection, offering the companies safe harbor. States will regulate AI, which is an old cause, or uniqueness overwhelms. Mithani, 24, some tech to derive some lobbying company policies as tricky to be confusion on terminology, can be difficult to make sure laws properly target hearts. Pulaski is about tech unions instead of federal workers, insists that the private sector union stuff inserted in yellow. No superintelligence, Funkin Smith, 24, HR within the reaches high big top secret capabilities are logistically by a logarithmic scale and are diminishing LLMs or side formulas and cannot reason. No terminal impact. China's NFU prevents escalation. Tech lead is inevitable. Go and Jew 12 never requires a property rights ability to attract top demands of the carbon spreading leads. Everything that can be gathered in second use and control 75% China remains a control by embargoes and funding China can fall permanently highly the US benefits of publications censorship and sells under data quality wealth and demand are indispensable. China's economies have been trapped in weak demand capacity unemployment and persistent offers no revenue. The US will grow at 300%. The open source strategy the requirement reduces high quality data innovation requires demand. If they're right that China is revisionist and evil, then they wouldn't give up their AI, and they can't solve for rogue AI in other
Subset's
countries.
also unpredictable because in the United States does not mean literally everywhere.
Subsets unpredictable because India's not government basis. We're scared.
Sounds great. Very good for classics.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
I want to start off by talking about the lobbying decide. This piece of evidence from Newhouse says that automation can provide some benefits in terms of what it brings for federal workers.
Yes.
Where do you think it speaks to the incentive structure of federal workers that they want automation?
It specifically is quoting the AFGE and says, quote, the union does not have a blanket of opposition to AI. Your
okay.
card is also literally the worst thing I've ever seen. So
All right,
like,
I want to talk about the
anything
veto
is better
override
than that.
decide. The highlight of the Bozzi card, it says that they literally convinced him in a last-ditch effort as a result of escalation or tensions that were ongoing in Tehran. Why do you think this proves that Trump will inevitably strike in the Middle East?
Well, so the second line is the argument about why it would be inevitable. It says he still could order strike.
Yes,
but
he
the first
could. Why does this mean it's inevitable?
What do you mean? So it is
Could.
not inevitable
You know what
because there are
could
other
means?
constraints on his war-making capacity, which is the
Okay.
other line we highlighted.
Wait, did you send the war making?
I did, yeah, I just.
Okay. I guess, could you, let me pull that up. I guess, where do you think this card says that the plan solves via war powers?
You says vesting means that the power to remove authority and agency employees is coterminous with the power to command, meaning that the plan ensures that Trump does not have
We've
power
read
to
the
command
flex
over the
DA to
military.
ourselves.
Yes. But you have read the impact because you have said that Trump will go rogue and strike.
Yep.
So your argument is that the plan
So-
restrains the executive?
He
Yes.
wouldn't have any legal war-making authority because of the precedential effects of that.
So he can't just
I
haul
don't
off
think
the
the card
Taiwan
says
if he gets
that,
scared.
but-
The card
That is
says that. You
literally
said
what
it's
it
quote,
says,
coterminous with the power to
Okay.
make war.
Other arguments on this decide? The Fatullah and Najad card talks about why 12-day war in Tehran was not sufficient. Why do you think this is indicative of a future strike on the
Well, that's-
region as
it was
well?
about
That's
this-
like a thumper.
It was about when we struck him this summer.
Yeah, are
Wait,
you
no, you
serious?
have tagged the card to say, you have tagged the card to say
The
a war
12-day
could
war was when we
wait,
first struck Iran
I
this
know.
summer the first time.
You have said that a war could never escalate. Why do you think this is indicative of future international relations, future trends, incentives?
The card later says pundits long warned a war would kick off world war.
What
It
the
says all of this is
What
wrong.
the fuck does that even mean? Why is this predictive of future international relations?
Yeah, like,
what
what
does
is-
that sentence mean?
what is it- what is- why is
Other
this
countries
indicative
might
of
do stuff in the future.
different
Yeah, the sun
relations
might
of
explode.
different
War might
dimensions?
inevitably occur in
That is
2051.
definitely
Yeah,
says-
like this card is
trends-
predictive of
It
this
says
happening
that like
summer.
nobody would
Okay.
ever
The-
have an incentive to get
alright.
drawn in. Like it's
The
clearly
CBR pick, you said individual employees lose in arbitration.
Yes.
I guess, could you explain why this is unique to individual employees? Why are resources
Because-
determinative of an outcome?
Unions. What do you mean? If you have more money and you have a better, you can hire a better lawyer, and you're more likely to win in arbitration. Are you serious?
Okay.
Like you think poor, like random individuals with no expertise, no money are gonna
That's fine.
win in
One
arbitration?
other quick
Also,
question.
like-
Wait, sorry, this is important. One
Sure.
quick question. The veto decide. You said, quote, Trump is a rogue idiot, Lasha is inevitable in terms of their impact. I guess, could you explain why? What is, why?
We said
you said
our
Lasha.
internal
What
language
is
to
his warrants?
personalism and democracy is
And also, you've introduced the precedent that if he gets too scared, he will blow up Iran. So you can't really.
Why is
do
that inevitable?
Because he's gonna get scared about other stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, we have 9:55. I'll start that now.
we have one there in the VA. Is that also the guy? Or do you think-
Lobby? Yes.
Or
That- that's-
I think it's the just like that. I think because it's not Congress. Congress is you get what I'm saying? Because the bill is CPR. No, I think it doesn't matter. At least in the
Yeah.
Try 22.
I'm gonna go get Danny, I guess.
Okay.
I literally have no idea why he left, like where he could go.
Did they take it? Where's? I'm gonna use all stand out first.
Yeah, I got that.
I don't know. Our whole talk is stand, so I really need that back.
But her second stage is turn.
Wait, no, we brought it because I remember Don.
It was in the I swear.
I remember Don like.
or more?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Okay, it is the advantage coupling. Then T strengthen. The executive captain. The lobbying DA. And then solvency.
That'll be second.
Yeah.
My computer's just sort of way slower than Daniel's, so.
Okay.
Good to go.
Good as well.
Good. Okay, pretty good. Alright. The Cabinet also against not restoring the Union form. Emory has scored the CBR approves of federal progress and did not have cards only CBR does so with certain love cards that assume Cabinet and continued marginal difference in efficiency or expertise is not going to because not being connected to impact. Then that way it's going to benefit only the Cabinet solves the case because the plan is to outcome to chance via bargaining with the Cabinet directly beyond the end result. Permutation to both links to that benefit because it includes restoration of the Union form, which allows them to lobby. The same is true of permutation to any combination of plans, and both of those include Congress acting, so it links to veto as well. It does not show that benefit. The Cabinet is the courts, the plan is Congress, so veto is a net benefit. Cabinet is not from the uniform. That was above. Conditionality is going to be if we did one is like flex. To not fallback option to control which strike outside bias and same back, especially on this topic because strength is expansive. There's a broad mechanism diversity, and then it's singular power is good. She was the logical world mechanism for the app Cabinet. Do that via opportunity cost when the Cabinet is bad on the app is good. Key predictability determines app declaration, which also describes judgment 3 is research as the app multiple angles and divides options both sides, which proves argument quality research skills and makes it more reflexive, narrowing down the block cells depth with a breath 4, no offense finishing. Margin utility after speaking last 5, it's not a voter 0 residential basis, which makes it arbitrary and it causes substance crowd at worst against the Cabinet. Pretty sure they said no non-rest theory in response to A-spec. Skew is inevitable, tons of T-shells, dissents, and procedural. Skew is good, it forces choice to make strategic decisions. Discipline is also our offense, arbitrary leads to absurd results and negative always interpretations. Plus, I don't actually think the GC said a counter interpretation, so you should assume it makes it impossible. Links to that benefit is wrong, that was above. CBR key is absolutely asinine. First warrant was an application of the Kepler card. Autonomy is wrong, and there's no impact to it. Workers being more autonomous does not mean that they work better. It's just a question of if they're in their jobs in the first place. The Kepler card, which they tethered this to, says CBR is good because it gives workers a voice, not that it's the only way to do that. The Cabinet solves because there's a plan that lets workers express a resolution through a dispute mechanism. No impact to the disputes deficit, which was next. A few workers being disgruntled is inevitable but not existential, and the Cabinet solves them by adjusting working conditions and firing protections, which is what causes them to be disgruntled in the first place. Plus, again, they drop plank 5, which creates a council for expressing complaints. And they extended the Davis card. It's wrong. It belongs under the CBR sufficient, not CBR necessary part of the 1AC. The same is true of the Gardner evidence that they read. It's about the CR restoring workers to left during the shutdown, not Trump's firing, which is reinserted in green. The Cabinet solves the morale board through including reforms which demonstrate commitment to the federal workforce. But if not, the plan does not solve either because their impacts are about needing expertise, which hiring new people doesn't solve. Next argument was identity. Unions are not human motivation. 1, workers care about their jobs, not how to unions. Moderation for new people. Give me a big responsibility to get away with the after being labeled as pressure governments. And that's their institution, mark at institution plus all causes, like Trump calling them total idiots means the plan can't solve either, but the Cabinet does because it signals strong federal protections, which boosts morale and commitment to the plan. The Bruno evidence that they cited is a survey of a small group of Illinois public sector workers. This could be 20 third grade teachers in Skokie, so it's not definitive. The Shoemaker card is not even close to a CBR key warrant, but it does concede that workers are staying now despite Trump because they like their job, which is our argument above. The Chanel card is just another warrant for identity, which was answered above. From to the Cabinet, sever CBR relationship, you find define CBR as violation hours, confusion, women, severance, motivation for fairness and clash, ab conduct, executive engagement impossible. CBAs is competitive because it restores old contracts, but not the right to bargain in the future because contracts cannot bargain, nor can they lobby. Enforcement deficit is wrong. They dropped planks at the Cabinet that cover legal fees and incentivize workers to come forward, which is sufficient to solve courts. Key to certainty, LOL, the Cabinet is the federal judiciary. Read the Cabinet text. T. 2AC1 was we meet, conceded. They meet, no takebacks. They said no counter-tradition because we agreed they meet this one. That means the plan establishes that CBR supersedes opposing interests. The Cabinet. Executive Cabinet solves the case. Rather than having the court rule against Trump, the Cabinet has the executive branch rescind the relevant executive orders that restores bargaining without strengthening it is legitimate. We fiat the executive branch, not an individual, which means you know it's legitimate. And I don't think the 2AC introduced a theory argument. Permutation to both links because it includes the plan's congressional action. Uncertainty is wrong. There is no impacts to it because they have not tethered it to a 1AC impact. It's just because as long as federal workers have their bargaining rights restored, the Cabinet solves it because Trump's reversal is not super uncertain or surprising. He changes his mind all the time, and the plan is less certain because it involves involves Congress stepping in to check the president, which is something they've never done before. Now, permutation did account plan. The plan cannot be the executive. One, to strengthen means to increase the ability of the CBR to overcome opposing interests. That's 1 and C shower, which they said they need. Here's more evidence. Complex theorizing. Two minutes supposed to do about other strength rights, and opposite considerations. This is academic, this is political, and finally, a right to strength the complex and consideration to absolute matter of weight or a priority. The executive cannot do that by restricting 5%. Change laws, law considers what executive order that to have power to same power like law balance in Congress. Contextual evidence proceeding to be found in citizens. The president is to be not into future avenues of the right to executive order to bring it back to and federal unions require Congress. That is because in order to establish that one right supersedes another, a legal change to the status quo is required. That is what occurs when the courts or Congress balance between different rights provisions. That only happens if either the court issues a ruling overturning a previous executive order or Congress passes a new statute that says CBRs to supersede other considerations. The plan is neither of those things. 2, rights require legal codification, but after and 3, rights can not several rights similarly. When money laws can be enforced in courts, 3, collective bargaining rights, statutory rights to be not by CBU, are such right to negotiate. 4, resolve for rights will say the final change paper. Policies determine resolve. 5, should must be legal whole and 22 strengthen. American centuries required to legislation like rights of all rights cannot be substituted for legislation. Prefer letting the act be the executive crushes core topic strategies like the legal spillover to set because they do not have to change balancing test that is core of the topic or having for balances. Inherent upwards like H lawyers, scholars, price legal up and away that's what legalized it, position very small, still lawyers, but in problem, workers are section of rights because of the equally viable right. Those actualizing rights is always up for judicial scrutiny, and they justify acts which do not require a legal departure, but merely issue guidance or affirm the screw that's catastrophic and think it's all negative, and the negative the executive counterplan is good at functionally with this topic. By requiring acts have to have a reason why legal change is key. Those advocates exist. Look at our TSA Act, plus giving the negative politics on this topic is essential because it's unlimited and mechanisms are diverse. Other functional limits don't solve. States can seduce by preemption and requires HMDAs in order to be and have an evident capital system framework or term not mutually exclusive and political law is easily beaten by CBR key. Lobby. Winning the AI risk exit several seat impact versus deterrence. Whoever leads an AI will win worse in the future. It'll be decisive. As the U.S. legally goal for, that's the action for evidence out with some time frame because between the short-term action for over on Christmas combustion trade of the targets between Middle East, Taiwan, Asia, and first revolution is element window port. Someone is irreversible, pull away. There's all your huge Asia comments. Someone is translating Asia and plays out with World War. Extend both of the counterplans and foundations linked because they include the plan. Federal unions do unlock successful lobbying over AI. Handler, their author agrees. Handling for unions and power law in Congress. And responsibility advocacy groups. Unions are federal, so they have to use official time. The Congress created the extra right lobbying hashtag labor business. Speaks to the press, they'll do it over AI. Compiler in 24 and 25, the Trump employees can turn on the algorithm automated tools, sharp with transferring the logic doesn't involve worker. It is impossible to know by the tools here direct field rabbits by units worker and advocates are fighting the legislation between the workforce. On AI, regulations worsen uncertainty, so this turns backwards to 8 all 25 after. Legislative influence will also put negative systems and uncertainty about how laws will be enforced whether additional rights will be regular to stop understanding AI regular mechanisms crude and innovation and uncertainty. Regular returns are indicated reducible secure regulation comes at the expense of innovation. States do not solve their evidence says some states are passing regulations, but a patchwork does not nuke all AI innovation, which means companies can flock to states that don't have restrictive laws, which solves innovation. They create a nationwide ban, which prevents it. Their defense is irrelevant. No superintelligence does not connect to our impact because it's about non-superintelligence being integrated militarily. It's also the China NFU is just an assertion that our evidence circumvents it because it's the initial escalates. The U.S. is leading now, but it's not resilient and if we overregulate because in 25 because of AI. Reliance on mass innovation paradigm should make it difficult to carry out long-term stability standard data, which are hard to take control on accident because it can be capacity created in America 75 years. Function and balance force about to get started. Yeah, American tools like student and side functions doing animals use as the energy to consider it. And scale replace the planning so far struggles to replicate American history stumble through over-regulation. Solvency. Normal means of the plan is Congress is most likely 1. The House has already passed a bill to restore rights. That's Freeman. 2. The court will never rule against Trump on national security, First Amendment, or APA grounds. CRS and 25 security guarantee. Greatest risk of consideration finding the government's something still near. Span of question purposes accessing the constitutional for national security. First Amendment arguments Congress and contract has authority. Congress some words in statute. 3. Trump would not reverse itself because it's his XO. You should decide on means according to what is most likely. 1. Predictability. Both sides can determine it in a base based on research that maximizes clash and preparation. 2. Real world politics is always a matter of narrowly making it past the finish line. 3. Debatability. Anything else lets the Afghan cause for offense from extraneous processes like abolishing the Senate or raiding the filibuster, which means being negative possible. 4. No app offense. They could have specified in the plain text or cross text. They chose not to because they wanted the strategic upside of rendering agent competence non-competitive. That should come with the strategic cost of needing to win normal means. The fact they're reading evidence about the court should be irrelevant. Otherwise, they would get the upside of court-specific offense without the downside of getting the neg court strategies. But in the plain definition of the Congress, which was above, if the absent courts vote neg on jurisdiction and because they exclude limits in private court neg ground plus it's good for the absent Congress because it functionally limits topic to absent Congress key and built in politics is guaranteed offense. The 2AC on this page was largely incoherent. It was just whining about why it's mean to let the negative define normal means, which is nonsense, and they should be prepared to defend it because it's no part of appropriation. They said that it proves it will pass inevitably, so if the veto override is inevitable, that's wrong. Our evidence says the House passed it, but no parts of the Senate is likely to. That, however, is still a lower threshold to cross than the court overturning Trump since they never check him. So it proves that it still most likely means the plan does not solve it in the air. The plan reading solvency advocates doesn't matter, which was above. Drop things fine now. Most federal workers are not leaving the federal government. They're staying in place and love their jobs, which is also evidence on the Advantage counterplan. No new money or answers, which proves it solves every internal link. But there is no solvency. Regulations and funding cuts swamp the plan, even if experts stay. Their regs are cut and funding is slashed with opposing evidence. The only juicy answer was workers will do what they need to do. That is a direct quote. That's not an answer, nor is it an argument. Plus, the bureaucracy was clamoring before Trump was 21. That exact support is for all the qualities of the workforce and that of the workers, and also with official and whether reported workers adequate. Task range from defense to mail to patents, quality of HTTP client, HTTP. Have two people lack expertise to keep up with AI and some support that dry HTTP appointment leadership is middling.
Ready for the cross?
Yeah.
Okay. Concler evidence read on the link. It says, quote, labor unions, federal workers, and other advocates are fighting, and then like about, other advocates, why does this not zero the DA?
Because we are the only team that's read evidence that says federal unions successfully get what they lobby for. Other advocates don't. But federal unions have resources and relationships and are able to extract concessions from Congress because of their political dynamics. Other advocates cannot.
Like PACs, they surely have money, right? Why are union resources key?
So again, this would be a new one-year argument, at which point I'm happy to read more cards that only unions get things done.
Okay.
But your author says this, like Handler says federal unions have unique
Card
benefits.
says that their workers' concerns is that they're going to be fired by an algorithm. So this might be a link argument about them opposing automation in the federal workforce. Where does this say that they want regulations on private sector development of AI?
Well, it's a reason that they would push for AI regulations generally. This card also isn't just about being
Like,
fired
word
by
association
it's
is not how
also,
links
no, this
work.
is important. Like, it's also about being concerned about the way that people like Musk are using AI. So like they're concerned about private sector encroachment and the way that that is increasingly intertwined with the government because of things like Doge and
Where does your card make a connection between like general concern or about specific concerns about automation and general concerns about regulating AI?
I mean, I think that the combo of the Concler card and the 1NC card established that those things are interconnected. And like I just said, federal workers know that federal automation is being driven by the private sector because Musk is running the government. So like these things are not as distinct as they once were.
Okay. Executive counterplan, the first competition argument, do you think that the counterplan provides weaker bargaining rights than the plan?
So that's a weird question. No, we think that the counterplan does not legally strengthen. We think affirmatives are topically required
Why doesn't
to
it legally
strengthen.
strengthen?
Why does what? The
Like-
counterplan cannot legally strengthen because we both agreed that strengthen means establishing a right supersedes opposing interests. The executive does not have the legal authority to do that. So it functionally solves the app, but it does not
Wait,
strengthen
sorry,
rights.
sorry,
in terms
can
of
you
legal
explain to
rights.
me, just like, so I can understand the functional difference between the courts striking down executive orders and the executive repealing them in terms of strengthening?
Yeah, so a couple things. One is that an executive order does not change law. So the executive merely issuing or repealing an executive order does not change the legal status quo.
Then
Okay,
why
if
is
the
the court
counterplan-
striking it down?
Because the court would have to because the court changes the legal status quo because it has a authority to dictate what the law is. and
Why
what it
is the
says.
counterplan binding if you don't provide the right to withstand opposing considerations?
Well, because it repeals the executive order. Like all of your internal links are about the executive order being bad. The counterplan repeals that. Like unfortunately, you've read an app on the strengthened CVR topic without a strengthened keyboard.
That's strengthening people.
Okay, links to net benefit, why, do you think this avoids both DAs?
Yes. Wait, sorry, which counterplan?
Okay, the advantage, but the worker council's counterplan, if they can ask for whatever they want, why can't they ask for AI regulations?
Well, no, the dispute resolution just allows them to like vent their concerns.
Okay.
But they can't lobby. You good on this?
Yeah.
You just sending it.
Oh, right, okay.
Okay. Order is the Capque veto.
Sorry, say it again?
Cap veto override.
Okay, yes, I couldn't hear the second thing. I just got the one second.
Yeah, no worries. Good.
No.
No, I still.
Good night.
Cool, same. Kick the cake and see the permutations as the competition for Condo's reason that the cake critique not disadvantage for Condo justifies veto override. The two states conceded most of the side. They conceded the bill would get veto overridden and Trump would strike Iran as a result. Any risk Iranian strikes escalate means they're auto-negative. Iranian strikes cause extinction attacks, precipitate Iranian proliferation lash against US military bases, thus stays into World War III. But Iranian proxies against great power doesn't appear to them. It's now the case on time frame. Every scenario is structural long-term and checked by intervening actors. Plus, their timeline for solvency is long, threats are immediate, which is always because you can only die once. Decisively turns diplomacy, proves that the role that it was inadequate to detect threats, which questions its legitimacy because Trump does what he wants. Also turns terrorism, Iraq, proves that striking the Middle East incentivizes the rise of terrorist operations, also reduces counterintelligence trust in the region. The U.S. is seen as wholly irrational, also linked towards democracy and miscount. Donald Trump would openly declare himself above the law, that is well in dictatorship, law coming back. Federal society compromises the rule of law. The first Trump, they make compromises, he is satisfied now plenty of Trump orders that this was a mistake, but Trump is right, simply says that compromise will be, if they say the country that's become permanent, we would have something closer to relative dictatorship than rule of law. We're not there yet, but it's easier to imagine. Also, it's the most likely scenario for World War III. Pointed out, in all 25, we live in a generation threatening flashpoints. The question is whether people repeat our regular foreign policy over base peace to strength. They wouldn't invade sovereignty. Ukraine, she gets whatever that one invasion came. Then drones troops in Russia, Iran, Russia, the Iranians, the Rebuttals, nuke ISIS, raised the ugly head. Peace will march on seriously the leadership. They care less the ocean. They find itself in World War, but the strong leadership should have the world out of the war. The key is with leadership. It also difficultly turns polycrisis because it means that any type of government bureaucracy will automatically be screwed because Trump will make sure that markets are uniquely more active because he has a political incentive to do so. 2EC, one, keep the counterbalance purpose as a competition. And then 2EC2 is the ICE argument. ICE is pretty smart, but ICE fights the Solid 26 with no war implications, no new warning cards. Because uniqueness was dropped. It's also non-responsive. Our argument specific to a veto override in ICE priced in by all of our cards. The DGOB, this is fully aligned with Trump now. They made Congress quote rubber stamp and submit evidence. They're tracking Trump in unmeasured ways. Won't outright challenge him to extend in all 26. Idea of Greenland is one power of the Republicans fight. One opposition over to run. Presenting President Trump is all agreement with the party for the past. I hate that powers have made for characters and Trump is a rule. Republican politics is something of full display. But his term, all app examples are fake. Kilgore 26. There's a lot of talk about Republicans being liberated themselves from Trump this week. Not so much. House Republicans are just beneficiaries of free vote or something else. Never going to result in actual legislation. More power played. That gesture without real consequence. But the 65% of Republicans supported it. Trump's term is notable for an increased level. The Fox have now supported the peace claims. And then the contrary with the basic system. They're too scared to fully and openly challenge and be honest. No 125. Republicans know that they economic presence. IRS is really threatening of Greenland. So I have this power supported the new imperial class outright was heavily disagreed, but here Boston and Trump's opposition the parties been demonstrated successful bills have been defeated. 2AC2 is the plan, is the courts. This is in the 2C. Normally this is Congress. Normally the plan is a Trump veto. We will fall by congressional override. Framing issue: if you win Trump, we will veto. Then the plan must be a legislative override. It's the only way for it to be durably fiat. If Trump will veto, he'd never let pro-worker legislation across his desk. That's Harrison. 2AC has dropped the premise, only contested that the act might not be Congress, but they've dropped that if it is, definitively be overrated. That's also proven by empirics. CW no date. Trump made increasing power corporations, copyright, Trump made board tables for CBAs, never checked unions back and forth, they have anti-labor judges, black NRB, with the anti-union appointees proposed to veto, the pro-actor to veto, the minimum wage proposed to veto, the Heroes Act. But if the act is just the courts, Trump would then definitely lash out and override any form of CBAs that would be enforced as well as the plan because the courts would approve it. It is defiantly and staunchly anti-labor. That's especially true in the context of federal workers. Maybe 25 passed a bill that would override Trump's orders to Senate bill for the 60-vote threshold to overcome a filibuster and likely presidential veto. Durable fiat requires overriding the veto, otherwise negative presumption. And topically, it's that 18, the word should is mandatory to be amended now. Later time, but juries that are not aspirational. But now, plus it's most likely passage itself requires 60 votes clear to the filibuster, which is not, which is nearly enough support to override. Next argument is Trump rogue. Emory cannot say this. If Trump is so irrational that he'll just inevitably lash out, that advantage to is zero because the 2AC dropped that unions cannot influence Trump's authority over news or decisions start wars. But a veto override is a key to break Trump. We'll view it as outright revolt in his party. That's good evidence. It's more significant than any resistance so far. Kilgore 1-9. The House vote is that there was a reboot then to Trump House vote is to die in the Senate even if it passed the House. Trump can veto that didn't prevent a goal of excommunication. Defectors like a wonder that King Magneto rebels hardly assigned the Trump grip is slipping. That's magnified by fiat. Trump would expect an override because Congress is inclined to do so. Until now, it gets perceived as betrayal. Yummy. 1-6 Republicans wishing to override the president. The president, unusual moment of rights are uncommon, but especially within lawmakers can run their own party of potential override. Highlights the rising frustration. Now is key telling me 1222 even as most no remain on only small step out of line. Most of those incompetent enough is rolling. It's a new moment for Trump's choices that may show whether fractions are truly deepening. Trump can't handle rejection. Proven. The 26. The Trump against me now skeptical rejection will do anything to need to ability. The rejection policy is in the pursuit of one objective. Trump has given Trump's battle ego motivation for Maduro motion to give Trump the opportunity to act tough. Trump says not completely conflicting the military with his ego. He will ground the country to more and deeper international morality to defeat his need for glory. Inevitable the reality says nothing. It says that Trump could strike Iran again. Not that he would in scope. Every part above proof that would override that triggers it. But there's no military option in Iran now. But that could change if the circumstances do bigger. 129 Trump is our weighing tries to authorized military action or trusting among the options of the president. Remains open to finding diplomatic solutions to nothing. Actions that drive the Iranians negotiation. litigation precedent, hopes that no action will be necessary. Do we see defense for impact is outdated? It's from 2025 and generalizing purely after 12-day strike. That the strike would cause massive military war, which causes extinction. Every 20 because or actually specifically the 1C card implement says pro-life element that causes great power war, and the element 18 may feel compelled to strike before they become operational. Divisional war may join. Several of the nuclear weapons, 6 the US, UK, France, and Russia, draws from the US and Russia. Finally, 20 Israel might strike Iran threatening oil, telling the US or Russia to intervene. Really, this war goes nuclear. 25 the US should not cause the Russian to residentially agriculture. The strikes based on dangerous assumptions this action would be clean and quick and contained. However, it would escalate. It would represent potential error. The notion the US cannot limit action without provoking desperate forces responsible. Lack of imagination, responsible attacks to destroy all things, climb the escalation ladder, work the ladder. Any strike will draw in other countries. 26 cards. The arms of the okay, I'll go to the last argument instead. Whoops never says that the plan retrains Trump's nuclear authority card is word salad and never says that Trump can't launch a war on his own in the world of unions. Plus, zero scenario for an impact event. Decades of a high executive repeatedly 24 for powers of presidency and proportionally mass powers switching from 40 to more than 2008 by 2009. While launch war Georgetown and Bush in 8 years before the border triple. No way that legal limits on war making opponent by the WPR, the Indians engaged massive effort collecting massive data of Obama extended power innovation mass on Trump's whole money is the first time the president will order assassination of top official thing. Every country would consider declaration of war. Their author is hacked on the 08U. Turned history to mean in the opposite assumption that all facts about support the opposition have it, assuming argument was hold 100% he's not an expert, his reputation is so political that there's nothing left to protect. The card's market left to protect.
Awesome.
8:30. Do the other time.
Oh, it's alright, sorry.
What are reasons to reject the team?
Do you think Tavakali
is a reason to reject the T? Or,
What T arguments?
okay, I guess that was kind of a question that led you into it. T must be Congress.
Just that?
Yes.
Okay.
Cool.
It's just the 4 definitions of permanent counterplay, right?
Yep.
Okay.
How much do you have left?
346.
Okay.
I'm gonna fill my water. Oh, Kevin's not here.
Are you debating anything? Or are you running?
So I might. At memories in general, last debate, I haven't decided if I'm going to.
Okay.
If I do, it's probably not going to be like this. So
That's fine.
yeah,
Do you know who you would be David?
I'm not sure. Maybe Serena. Maybe I don't know. I can jack my debate together, which would be really funny.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Here's your stamp.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Doesn't have a secret. Or does it? Oh. Does that ever, does that stand have a sticker on it?
No.
Like under
Oh,
the,
under?
no, under the cover.
Oh, under the
Pull
cover.
it
Oh.
out.
Yes.
Okay, that's our sticker.
Oh, you switched?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
I mean, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter at all.
It.
You can switch. Yeah, no
I
worries.
thought we all switched.
Okay. Okay. Sense 1, 2, solvency, advantage counterplan, executive counterplan, lobbying DA, veto DA.
Oh, one more time.
Yeah, 1, 2, solvency, advantage counterplan, executive counterplan, lobbying DA, veto DA. Cool. You good?
No.
Cool. Yes. Yes.
Okay, good.
Cool. Okay. Must be tried out for job advantage, civil service outweighs caps cascading risk across a raft of policy demands. We can decide on resilience, drop preferred magnitude, and it solves the terminal impact of the DA. Independently, diplomacy solves extinction, capping escalation in Ukraine, Taiwan, and externally enabling cooperation of extraterrestrial solves every terminal scenario to the DA because China, nowhere around will ever escalate multiple diplomacy has the ability to prevent you from going nuclear or causing extinction. Democracy advantage, the impact, disadvantages, and accidental deficits. The executive counterpoint solves extinction, external checks, and children key to deter personal and the precedent of democratic trade. Else civil war is inevitable. That's our when I see Perez evidence, which means it is a deficit of the counterpoint. Now, solvency, normal means to the courts today. Defining normal means makes literally any process compatible, which destroys after-ground and jump that those are bad in the 2EC jump. That's also unpredictable because it's post hoc, arbitrary, constrained, and the affirmative, no definitional grounding for it. After-ground outweighs literally any substantive strategy which solves all of their offenses per the functional limits which we explained above. The most likely argument is wrong. It's unpredictable because it's arbitrary. No reason to determine what likeliness is, and any other interpretation ensures the F automatically loses. Lower courts are also checking Trump now means it's also extremely likely and unverifiable means it's bad. Standard for evaluation and after interpretation solves. We get durable fiat, which solves the argument about courts not wanting to check Trump because of the weak fiat that they do, which is also justified by Shu in the resolution. That's a record in the 2EC. They didn't answer predictability is backwards because their interpretation is completely arbitrary and illogical. No link to clash and prep interpretation solves it. And agent counterpoints are bad, which is dropped. I'll get to that in a little bit. Abolish filibuster example loses to filibuster good, which ensures ground proves that there's always something that can say no, not cost of normal means. We said the plan is likely courts and one is cross which is sufficient. Other definitions above will answer or below will answer the T thing. No things fine now. Shoemaker evidence ends. You said about names as the workers are cowering and things are not fine. The Ministry of Justice is collapsing. The court concedes this premise. The posing extension is wrong. Regulations are irrelevant. So links about expertise, which is the oral evidence also conceded in which is about enforcing existing regulations, which are statutory permitted. Bureaucracy low before Trump is wrong. Or Suzuki evidence is a meta-analysis and indicates the past systems were affected. Now, advantage counterplay, conditionalities and existential threats of fairness. Advantage counterplay decimates app strategy to remain imbalance game that controls all other impacts. App balance self deterrence and supersede all of the issues because the one team made the debate unworkable externally lack the competitive incentive unwise research expenses. Intrinsic worth and turns all their offense. App offense outweighs flex, which is 2-1. 2 our fallbacks are inevitable given the block and allowing one side to have strategic control is unfair, not key in this topic. Negative words are huge. Strength constraints. New applications. Trump is equally bad for the app and labor power good. Blacks advocates net ground is not concessionary. The block checks to 2-yard pre-round condo. Especially against Fed workers. Other rounds of dispo solves no logic. It's illogical to burn the app. Answering every idea ever is suggesting impact turns space illogical. So offense outweighs its reciprocal. They said app condo makes negative possible making it a logical burden. Research skills. Researchers wrong choice or not. Risk versus office is premium. New counterpoints always have huge incentive. Condo worsens clash and minimized processing. Team used completely backwards because more advocates have increasing utility. Zero res basis condo is resolution because it defies the burden of negation. Arbitrariness is wrong because some rules are better than none. Non-res bad justifies new 2-year arguments and plans and sticking them with the counterpoint is conditionality. Skew inevitable is wrong. Condo ensures advantage counterpoint prolific which is germane. Dispo is not arbitrary. Includes arbitrary is their interpretation and it still solves their offense. So they cannot go for arbitrary is bad. We say can't confirm the theories. We did say this one the 2C now perm to the plan. And any combination of the planks that works tried out ensures shielding. Only the plan guarantees future lawsuits. So explain why I'm reading this card in a second. This is a deficit to the counterpoint. Handler 25 liberates. Check president power managing executive branch of operation constraint policy choices unions for tracking through litigation communication legislative average out to the extensive view of executive power. Now it links to that benefit they call for solvency based DA. So reverse the counterpoint. Solve means it links to lobbying. Lobbying distinction is relevant to automation liquid concern non-unionized federal workers too, spending less time and money on job security, etc. Through the counterpoint means they have more resources to lobby. No plank solves autonomy, which is key to both impacts only collective bargaining. Grants workers a voice, which is integral to morale, allows workers to speak truth and power. That's collaboration. Now it's also linearly more autonomous, which triggers the links to the straight. Yes, impact autonomy is key. Better 25 decision. Encourage increasing government expertise, autonomy, class, everyone's leaving spend less vertical expertise, all this policy will reduce the value of civil service to the counterpoint does not solve the dispute resolutions. Drop worker counts get flooded by millions of different requests. That's matic evidence in the cap and it just lets them vent, which doesn't solve autonomy concerns because they scope of what they can ask about is limited. That's the 2 cross-sex process key. DUDEC 20 when employs unionized conduct and bargaining impact on the issue whether labor relation productive and labor condition the organization effective case studies illustrate union relations. The executive counterplan it cannot solve the turn because it's self-restrained and centralized authority within the executive and does not provide an external break on policy making its germane to strengthening because Trump is an opposing interest and only allowing him to not overcome the counterplan which trains Article 2. Now perm new counterplan its way the plan can be done. 2 cross-sex illustrates no functional limit. Block T is a voting issue for sandbagging makes the 1 AR functionally impossible. Introducing it the 1 T solves it. Encourages germane is counter to absolute any agent. Their interpret greenlights unfair process trash like the PUD counterplan functional limits like states and applicable solve app quantity. They dropped agent counterplans are bad. It was the first argument I made on ASPEC. They said they're unfair, steal the app and decimate app prep. This is a theoretical justification that excludes both counterplans because they both have agent. Even if they want to reject the argument, not the team that wins no counterplans are in the debate. Resolved is not in the res, but it means we're introducing resolution whips or 7 to declare by form resolution group CBR and rights. It is agent agnostic. London 96 legislature court decision. EOS and attorney general opinions have back to collective bargaining rights. Strengthen means to make stronger. Mayor Webster 25 to make stronger. Drop agent counterplans bad. That was done above. The plan has court to strike down the executive order. Meaning there's no functional distinction between that and the executive just moving it on its own. That was 2 and T cross-sex. The rights of legal argument is met because we are the plan. The executive counterplan is not good. It links to all of our offensive above. Legal change is not key, and there's no reason why testing it as germane. Functional limits do not require agent TAs because the laws we listed above in states means that you can go for midterms or any other objection labor power. Now, lobbying DA. No way impact to U.S. tech league is inevitable. China's already constrained by property rights. It's resilient. The Patakas card ignores that China is already overcome by regulatory constraints. Means that worst case we just equal China. There's no leader and there's no extinction. The DA is a disgrace. Pretty sure they dropped the rehighlighted Pulaski. This is technical user at all costs and no ASI due to technical constraints, which are Ashford says is key to Chinese AI causing extinction. No link. They've not produced a single card that's both but federal workers and said they would actually push for private sector regs. Rather bureaucrats support AX. Automates dull tasks. This new house. Other groups thumb Kunkler 25. That's inserted in blue. No evidence. Assumptions below from automation to broad regs. They don't like automation. Parts 25 unions. Ensure workers like clauses. New rules. Unions ensure workers for upskill new dimension. They're going to position making the opportunity to implementation. AI unregulated road accountability. Mark the card at accountability. The veto DA turns case in every argument. This page presents a linked argument. We've got arguments above was the plan does not axiomatically have to be Congress, which means we do not result in a veto, so there's no triggering scenario for the DA. Now, the term outweighs the DA. Their scenario is a temporary check on the executive, doesn't actually pose any restraint, but the plan is a permanent durable check. Our U evidences he no longer has the ability to command forces absent external restraint. It solves the entire DA because their premise is that external forces would check him. Suits card above ensures solvency because it ensures that lawsuits would occur over the plan. Yes, we said you would restrain nuclear authority. Our card is specific about it, and we explained it in 2C cross-sex. Our card is not word salad. I just did that above. The uniqueness argument is wrong. The plan forces the word to narrow it. Sure, 25. The using the Constitution, Article 2, Article 11, these income frames, regime law, executive model, functional, simplified formalism, already so considered, obsessive, left, executive authority, powers, professional, restrictions, legally outlined in current jurisprudence, mark the card of jurisprudence. Yes, uniqueness because suits about vesting are germane now. If courts, if they are right that it has been high in the past, it is tried after unions to restrain those things. Author index is hilarious, but our people control our big, but are the people that we were talking about control the government? We're not a full-throated U endorsement. It's we advocate for it in the context of restraining executive, which means we also read other pieces of evidence that indicate that this is the case. And either way, they said drop that the court is functionalist, meaning that they would adopt an interpretation even if it's precedentially irrelevant. That solves the DA. There's no scenario in which Trump can go rogue or escalate, which is now a deficit to every counterclaim because they've said that they decrease the ability of unions, which means it's linear and it has to be tried out. There's no terminal deviance with this.
That's what I'm looking for. 522.
Okay.
is the veto override DA.
Just the veto? Yeah, I was gonna say. It's like, fuck, what did I do?
Veto override, executive counterplan, the CDR pick, the lobbying DA,
Sure.
and then solvency.
Sorry, can I get that one more time?
Yeah, of course. Veto DA,
Yeah,
okay, veto
Yeah.
DA, executive counterplan,
yeah,
CDR pick,
yeah,
lobbying DA,
Yeah.
solvency.
yeah. All right, I'm good.
Let me grab one.
You're good.
My notice is leading.
Oh, sure, let's take a second.
Yeah.
Dude, Jack Young has been getting killed by nosebleeds.
That sucks. No, that's been my whole life.
He's had a nosebleed every single day, at least twice a day for the last 2 weeks. It's really bad. Like, I don't care. Oh, Jack, hey, what's up, man? It's really bad. Like, I'm kind of worried about it. Like, I look, he's just like,
Are they stress induced? Or are they just like?
he's not like the most stressed out guy in the world, so I can't really
He's just
just.
watching straight reels in our hotel. He is not a care in the world.
Big news on Everyone's out of the elevator.
Hell yeah.
They did the first hour of their debate from the elevator.
Actually,
Who yelled about it?
you're fucking.
Okay, who yelled about it?
He has a
Oh, they've been.
UT PR.
Oh, really?
Oh, sorry, no, it's just us.
Yes.
They're being with Candace.
It's decent. Y'all are half, right?
We are affirmative.
Nice. What'd you say? Did you say federal workers or?
They're out there
We
debating.
do not. We said strikes with union cards.
Nice. Yeah, then here's judging SS, right?
Yeah, that was the
Yeah,
team.
yeah, that's
One of our teams got stuck in the elevators and was debating from the elevator.
Bro, what? They got stuck in
Yes.
the elevator?
The team debating beach bus. The first hour of the debate from the elevator. For this building.
Sorry, they like in
When
this
they just
building?
were stuck in the elevator and they're like, well, fuck it, we're here, I guess.
Yeah.
They like joined Zoom or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maintenance said they couldn't get there for an hour, and so they're all going to debate it.
Holy shit.
That might be a first ever.
I was gonna say, has that ever happened? Like,
I mean, people have been stuck from an elevator and then had to debate.
because I was gonna say, it's a combination of Zoom
Because
plus,
you can't
like,
deviate.
yeah, but like all the history before that doesn't really assume.
They're lucky they got internet there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how did, yeah.
Apparently the Wi-Fi worked, so they're like, we're doing it.
Wait, they're debating our guys, you said?
Yeah.
Oh, they're doing
Your
it.
guys map apparently? I don't know.
Oh, Vish was mad, yeah, because Aditya has some sort of, I think he might have appendicitis actually.
Are you serious?
Yeah, Emory's getting completely cured. It's like, I don't know what is going on with us from a health perspective, but
Nosebleeds, yeah.
it's some sort of CDC week or
Hopefully
something.
you're feeling better.
I think I'm good, yeah. It's like, not a big deal, this is my whole life. So.
Okay, we're good now.
Okay, let me grab one.
No worries.
Okay, everyone good?
Yes.
A massive person to me too out. We had just had outweighs a case that's sold by a counterplan, and they don't have a solvency or internal leak for saying it causes extinction because they're running strikes, motivate proliferation, and drawing great powers through the causes a global war, which is to drop terminal impacts. It turns the case dropped every war. It turns diplomacy because it signals the U.S. as a bad actor on the international stage, which erodes trust and credibility. That also turns terror because they said that the bureaucracy looking and saying motivates terror attacks, turns democracy, dropped a card that makes Trump look as though he's above the law, which directs democracy promotion globally and independently. Even if they win, Trump gets a tremendous plan. The one-year job veto override leads to Trump just asserting himself over the law and being a fascist, which would dictate the world into a parliamentarian dictatorship, which strengthens their democracy. Impact one-year flag is presumption. One-year said no words about it, so it's an external impact that the term cannot access, and the directly access the reason answers the reason that the plan would be good. Trump would circuit the court over and say he's above the law, which shakes out the turn because they don't have a court saying Trump would not be able to launch wars if unions slightly restrain his flexibility. Now the rest of the set is 100 dropped it outweighs on time frame. Intervening actors check their impacts, and they have a longer solvency because they must first build up union density, then contain bargaining, and then solve their impacts. Whereas our strikes are immediate because it's about immediate passage of the plan. The turn is wrong. One, they read a card in the 1AC that said you should strike shirk because it's a hack. LOL. Their only one-year card is shirk, so strike it. Two is imperial slow affirmative because it demonstrates even when CBRs exist in the past, the president still had tons of authority to do things like launch invasions of Iraq, Libya, etc., which is the card read into 1 and R, and 3 is 0 card connects any of the dots for their internal link, and you will scour the card doc and not really understand what the fuck shirk is on about when he talks about with the vesting clause, plus the you indict is fantastic because he's a hack and is motivated to say whatever he wants because he's paid off by conservatives, so you should prefer empirical analysis and an external impact that they can't access. Now, the executive counterplan, it solves the entire case because it restores collective bargaining rights without having Congress act. They said self-restraint is bad, that is answered on the other page, so I don't have to do it here. Judicial counterplan is 0. They've dropped interpretation of strengthen. I do not care if you think this argument is stupid. They dropped 1, what strengthen requires, which is legal balancing to establish GBR's opposing interests, and 2, that the executive cannot do that because it cannot change law. Again, don't care if you think this is stupid. It was explained, carded, fully dropped, and hashed out in cross-sex, which means it's automatically competitive even if they win, that they wish it were not. Block T is not a voting issue. It was in the 2 and C, which is constructive. It's check back against new 2RT, new 2 and C re-articulations. The executive counterplan is good for us to get, so error negative on questions of competition. Agent counterplan's value was not dropped because the 2 and C had a bunch of justifications for why this counterplan is good, but they dropped strengthens too. That's the strengthen pick is obviously good. It's not an agent counterplan insofar as we've read an interpretation of resolutional language. Letting the act of the executive pushes toward protection of legal spillover dissent, which they drop as core of the topic. That's Wakabi evidence. It's key to how words get actualized, especially in the labor context. So you should first substantive debates on the topic. They also drop the justify acts that don't require legal departure, but instead issue guidance or affirm this quo, which makes all negative preparation impossible. That outweighs, plus the negative executive counterplan is good because it allows them to stay in the topic. Plus giving the negative politics consent is key to their functional limits. They said things like the state's counterplan dropping its new fact preemption, but it requires agent strategies in order to be a viable option, which means you should constrain the affirmative to being Congress. Drop that the cap can lose to framework of mutually exclusive, so none of their functional limits get them anything. And again, I don't really care if they don't like agent counterplans because they have dropped an interpretation that makes it competitive. Conditionality is good, and we get what we did. It's key to that flex. Anything else makes being negative possible because the topic is massive. All functional limits are new, which is above. The act can speak first and last, and they have a master structural advantage of wanting our sandbagging. So we're way ahead on functional limits for the other groups. Conditionality is key. Neg flex outweighs because of modern debate. Plaintext are vague and unspecified. The topic is act bias, and the labor power advocates are easy to find. Plus, the case is basically 0 because of liberation day. The impact is fairness. It outweighs because it's a prerequisite to education, and you'll use it when you evaluate this debate. Neg flex turns research, which is their main offense, narrowing down the block solves, dropped every choose answer, requires 3 to 5 responses, otherwise winning our sandbagging, and legally plus last speech means the neg loses. So even if we introduce a bunch of positions in the 1 and C, we have to conduct robust research in order to robustly defend them against a well-prepared 2AC. A breadth also is depth, cutting on unique strategies is better than the same econ TA since Northwest in round 1, so we link turn. Depth, which is better, abstract skew is inevitable because topicality, procedurals, etc., which means the 2AC will always have an insurmountable burden to overcome. We turn research was above before round does not solve because we cannot see the 2AC, which means it's impossible for the negative to predict the act's best angles, especially versus new affirmatives, which matters because you should think of conditionality as a model. Marginal diminishing returns means if the act is down challenge does not defend you warrant, then there's no offense, and if not, they deserve to lose because reading 4 process counterclaims of the same word is unstrategic, but not a voting issue. Dispositionality and all of their other counterpredications are incoherent, and it's not subject flexible. Lets the act choose the direction of the debate, which is massively distortionary. And if the act were to turn 4 counterclaims, the negative is super fucked because no one knows how to resolve that debate. No non-resolutional theory, and no non-resolutional theory, it's unconnected to the resolution because it's not predictable in advance, so no one can do research over it, which we both agreed matters, and we both agreed that fairness is also a prerequisite. But this is just by new to our theory because we're agreeing that constructives are constructives and rebuttals are rebuttals. So it's incoherent to allow them to give them 2 in their arguments, but if they win, that no non-res theory justifies new to their arguments, then please strike this argument off your flow because come to find out none of us want that to be how this works. Concede permits test competition, not going for it, no offense on this page. Lobbying decide, same thing, concede, no link, they won't lobby, and US late is inevitable, so all of it's irrelevant. Solvency. Normal means that the plan is absolutely Congress, and Emory is way behind this debate. It is most likely 1, Congress has already passed a bill. 1, in our evidence says it's even close to overcoming the filibuster now because there's at least some Senate support. 2, the court would never check Trump, drop the CSR card. The court does not want to challenge him on First Amendment grounds nor on the basis of the APA, but that card goes on to say that Congress could do those things. You should determine normal means according to what is most likely. 1, is key to predictability. Both sides can determine in advance based on research. To maximize clash appropriation, debate is a research game, so this comes first. Their model normal means disincentivizes it by allowing apps to write vague plain text, refusing to specify, and then shift out of offense after 1 is presented. Our model solves that because apps can choose to write vague plans, but that comes to strategic application. A mean to prepare normal means. It's not arbitrary because both hands can debate it out the same way that you do any other argument like link debate. 2, drop its real world. Politics is a matter of barely getting to the finish line. Incentivizing debaters doing their research about political processes is good and portably useful. 3 is debatability. Anything else is the plain offensive extreme is processes. Not every night team should not have to be prepared to say filibuster bad to be app advantages that advantage them in. No app offense. They drop they can specify in the plan or cross which solves infinite regress. And the upside of rendering agent counterplans non-competitive should come with the cost of being given normal means. It doesn't mean that process counterplans are competitive. It just means that if they choose not to specify, then the negative gets to read into normal means termination 0 with guns to solve because this is about interpretation of plain text.
We have 349.
I know.